So this is the video you've all been waiting for. Well, perhaps not, but a couple of weeks ago I made a video asking you to vote for your favourite synth manufacturer. Here are the results. And I discovered some really interesting things about you, or at least about the people who watch the video. I know a lot of people here have a YouTube channel, so some of this information might be of interest to you. I'm not going to talk about this very long, but if you want to skip the people bits and jump straight to the results, jump to this position in the timeline. So first of all, I often forget that not everyone is as nerdy about synths as I am, and a lot of people just watched the video and didn't bother voting, which I thought was a bit weird. However, I can totally understand it if you had difficulty in deciding who was your favourite synth manufacturer. It could be the one who makes your favourite synths, or the one who makes the most synths that you like, or the ones who makes the most value for money synths, any number of reasons or combinations. So it wasn't an easy question perhaps, but it was intended to be fun, and I did say don't overthink it. I also thought it was fairly obvious that I only wanted one vote, and some people voted for 2 manufacturers, and 3, and 4, and 5, which sort of defeats the object of the exercise. Now, in this wonderful democracy that we live in, it's one person, one vote, so I didn't think it was at all fair to allow anyone to have more than one vote. So I took the first manufacturer that they mentioned and made that their number 1 vote. And I also created a second vote column. I'll explain how that works later on, but the second vote did not impact the overall results. All will become clear in a moment. So I made a video asking for votes instead of putting them in a poll in the community section, because the polls only allow for 5 options, and of course there are more than 5 synth manufacturers. In fact, I got votes for no less than 17 synth manufacturers. So you can possibly imagine, given the relatively small size of this channel, the results are not, I would suggest, anywhere near statistically valid, but still interesting, I think. And given the number of synths and the number of votes, there were many ties for different places, and in fact the whole lot can be put into a top 5. So that's what I did. Let's have a look at the results. So I put the results into a spreadsheet and calculated the results as a percentage. I thought that was the easiest way to understand the results. So we'll reveal the results in traditional reverse order. Coming in at number 5, and you can see there were a lot of ties for last place. So some surprising results, certainly for me, I think. Moog doesn't rate very highly, and Oberheim just manages to squeeze in as well, as long as some what I would call outliers. Soma, for example. PPG, Nord. It's pretty clear that most synth manufacturers have a dedicated band of followers. In 4th place, which was also a large joint result, we have again what I would have considered outliers, such as Access, creators of the wonderful Virus synth. Yamaha, surprisingly I think, doesn't rate very highly. One of my all-time favourite synths was the S49, and of course it produced the infamous CS80, but it hasn't released many dedicated synthesizers recently. The Reface series and this new whatever it is, which was just released a few months ago, it seemed to be putting all its energy into workstations. Archeria's in here as well, as is Behringer. You may have thought they might rate slightly higher because of the number of instruments they produce and the good value for money they offer, but no, there they are. So we get on to the top 3 places, and if we have a look at the list, you can see that there are some famous names which are not included yet. So can you guess who will be in the top 3? Well, position number 3 is Roland. In spite of synth, can I say, disasters such as the JD08, Roland is still a very popular synth manufacturer. They have a history going back to the beginning of synthesizers just about. So position number 2, and I have to say this was a surprise because I didn't expect this company to rate so highly, but they did. And number 2 is Sequential. So a lot of people obviously have a really soft spot for the Prophet series, of which there are a great number of synthesizers. Again, it's a classic synth company which has been producing classic synths for a long time. So that just leaves the number 1 position, and if you scan the list you can probably work out which one it is. A big manufacturer who has not yet been mentioned, and that is of course Korg. Now, I'm not totally surprised by this. They are one of the most prolific synth manufacturers, and over the last few months they have been releasing almost a glut of synthesizers. They are, I think, in everyone's frame of reference if you think about synthesizers. And as I've said before, I really do like Korg gear, in spite of the fact that much of it, in my opinion, is overpriced. So what about the secondary votes? Well, I've left these as vote numbers rather than converting them into percentages because most people were kind enough just to vote for one manufacturer. But if we look at the secondary votes, I think it's quite interesting. There are 2 manufacturers who didn't feature in the main list at all, Udo and Erica Synths. So people obviously like them, but not enough to vote them into their first position. What's also interesting, I think, is Arturia got 4 votes here. So a lot of people like Arturia, I know that, but obviously not enough to put them into first place. And Oberheim gets 3 votes. Some people actually voted for Sequential stroke Oberheim, so there was perhaps a little bit of an overlap there, but I did separate them out into 2 separate votes. So there you go. I thought the results were interesting. If you want to discuss any of them, this is the video and the comment section in which to discuss them. Let me know if you find the results surprising or not. Thank you so much to everyone who voted, or indeed who just looked at the video. That's it for this one. If you want more synthesizer goodness, check out these videos. Thank you again for watching. I'll see you in the next one.